Hey, what up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you with a special video looking back at my old school WWE DVD collection for before I was into collecting masters. I used to be a wrestling tape trader on the internet. I was really big into VHS, and then I think somewhere around like 2004, 2005, I made the switch over to DVD. In this folder that I picked up to take a look at today, this is my old school Monday Night Raws, SmackDowns, and etc's that are inside of this book. This should be a really cool book. It's kind of outdated now. I know that not everything is up on the WWE Network, but there's so much stuff on there that I rarely ever touch these binders. But starting it off with some old prime times, which was what Monday Night Raw was before Monday Night Raw. This is back from 1987, Hogan on Piper's Pit. Notice more prime times from 87. I probably recorded these off of WWE 24/7 back in the day. I used to record a lot of that stuff. WWE Bite This. Of course, this is with Lita having the Matt Hardy confrontation. A really cool episode. An episode of TNT with Who Will Manage the Macho Man. From there, we go into old school Monday Night Raws, 1993s. On the DVDs, I used to write down what I thought the best match of the night would be to make them stand out. Bret Hart versus Bam Bam, Macho versus Doink, 94's, Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon. Then we go into some WWE Monday Night Wars. This is how WWE 24/7 used to be. You used to be able to watch an episode of Nitro, and then it was followed with Monday Night Raw. So I used to just record them back to back on the discs. Here's some from 95 and 96. I didn't really write anything that was on there, so nothing really stood out at that point, or maybe I just was in such a hurry I didn't have time to put anything on there. But here's a Raw from Thursday of 97. Shawn Michaels loses his smile. Rock versus Triple H. Bret versus Vader. Sid versus Bret Hart. Title change. That would be in the steel cage match, which is basically what I believe started the Attitude Era with Bret flipping out. European belt. Owen versus Bulldog. Triple H versus Bret. Rock versus Vader. That was like a pretty big Monday Night Raw. Well, I guess not, because there it is. Sid versus Bret cage match and WWF minis. So what I said about the February edition is probably what the March edition would be. Triple H versus Cactus. Bret versus Goldust. And an episode of ECW from 96, I guess. Monday Night Raw, 97. Bret Scoot Bret. Bret Scoot Bret. Raw segments. Maybe that's 2 discs because it was a longer one. Triple H versus Shawn Michaels of 97. DX Funk Foley reunion. Owen versus Triple H. Owen takes over. Triple H takes over DX. New Age Outlaws versus the Hardcore Legends. That must be the Raw after WrestleMania. The Rock versus Triple H. Austin and Undertaker versus Mankind and Kane inside of the Hell in the Cell. Triple H versus X-Pac. Rock versus Triple H. DX parodies the Nation. Undertaker versus Mankind versus Kane. Kane versus Mankind, Hell in the Cell. Shamrock IC title tournament. Austin versus The Rock. Rock versus Triple H. Mankind versus Rock, the first title change. Halftime Heat. We have Rock versus Mankind ladder match. Rock versus Shane. Vince versus Shane. Austin versus Rock lumberjack match. Undertaker versus Rock casket match. Austin versus Triple H. Raw is Owen. Union Night. Rock versus Triple H cast match. I thought I was going to say casket, but I don't know about that. Rock versus Triple H. Austin versus Taker. Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy win the tag titles. Rock versus Triple H in a cage. Triple H wins the title from Mankind. Rock and Mankind, This Is Your Life. Triple H versus Rock. First Raw in Atlanta. I was there. DX relaunches with DX2. I thought DX2 would mean it would be Triple H versus The Big Show. And I thought that was on SmackDown. I don't know why I wrote DX2. Test and Bulldog inside of a cage. New Age Outlaws versus Rock and Stone Cold. Triple H versus Mankind. Test versus Triple H. if this is the Raw I'm thinking of, like this is the Raw that I thought the Test was going to win the WWE Championship. Matt Hardy versus Edge. Triple H marries Stephanie McMahon. Triple H versus Big Show, title change. Jeff Hardy versus Al Snow in the cage. Raw in Atlanta 2000. I was at this show. That might be the show that I was front row for, I think. Triple H versus Rock. Stephanie versus Trish. Austin versus Rock in a cage. ECW. I guess that's when they debut. That makes sense. That would be their debut. That was in Atlanta. It was one of the first Raws in Atlanta that I didn't go to. Booker T and Shane versus Taz, 2001 Raw. Austin versus Taz. That's one of their few. That might be the only matchup they ever had, but they had that small little angle inside of the Invasion of 2001. The first Raw draft of 2002. Ladder match, RVD versus Jeff Hardy. Rock versus Eddie, that'd be 2002. Triple H versus The Rock. Trish Stratus versus Stacy Keibler. Then we go to Triple H and Flair versus RVD and Bubba Ray. Nowinski versus Dreamer. Raw Roulette in Las Vegas. Triple H versus Maven. Rock versus Hurricane. That's a pretty big Raw in my opinion. I don't remember the Triple H versus Maven match though. Kane Unmasked. Triple H versus Kane. Triple H versus Shelton Benjamin in 2004. 60-minute Iron Man match. Benoit versus Triple H. I honestly can say I have no memories of that match. I might have to check that out soon. Just Raw with some dates on it. Orton's out of Evolution. Triple H and Eugene in a cage. Lita versus Trish of 2004. Triple H versus Jim Ross. Lita versus Trish. Lots of stuff on this one. 2005 Raw. We have the Gold Rush Tournament, round number 1. I think this is probably when I got my TiVo, and I just started recording like all of the Monday Night Raws. So I don't know if anything's really going to stand out here. Kane versus Edge in a steel cage. HBK Hogan face to face. Cena rap. Cena versus Carlito. Cena versus Carlito. Jericho's the ref. Hogan and HBK face to face again. The Eugene Invitational. Angle versus Hogan. Cena versus Jericho. You're fired match. Lots of just random Raws in here. Cena versus Angle versus Tomko. The big 8-man tag. Edge and Matt. I have no clue what the 8-man tag would be. Eminem versus Batista and Eddie. Oh, I guess that has both. That's got SmackDown and Raw on that one. Last Raw on Spike. SmackDown, Orton versus Rey Mysterio. There's, of course, the Raw Homecoming. It says Walmart on there because that would be the Walmart release. It's the same DVD, just no case, and it doesn't have the right cover on it that you'd pay probably about $100 on eBay for. Angle versus Hurricane. Carlito versus HBK. Kane's in there. Raw is Eddie. Then you have the Raw versus SmackDown Parking Lot Brawl. That was a very cool moment. Carlito versus Raw. Cena versus Angle versus Masters. Survivor Series 2005 main event. Raw and SmackDown. Raw. Ladder Edge versus Flair. When we go to 06. March to WrestleMania tournament. Will Marty kiss Vince's ass? Cena versus Big Show. Triple H versus Kane. Shane versus HBK. HBK versus Triple H. Vince versus Cena. WWE versus ECW special on USA when they were launching the ECW. That, of course, is when Big Show flips from Monday Night Raw to ECW. We have Sabu puts Cena through a table. Flair versus Edge. DX McMahon. RVD versus Cena. RVD and Edge versus... RVD versus Edge versus Cena. World title change. I guess that's probably when RVD got busted. Yeah, because that would be the one around the 4th of July. That makes sense. RVD versus Cena. Edge versus Jeff Hardy. Foley. Raw from the Garden in 2005. Steel cage. Family reunion. Alright. There's just some with dates on them, so nothing really probably spectacular happens on those. The SmackDown Collection, Triple H versus Rock, HBK Special Ref. That's the first edition of SmackDown. The Triple H 6-Pack Challenge. He has to fight each guy. He has 6 matches on this show versus Big Show versus Kane. Mideon versus Viscera. I guess maybe he didn't fight Undertaker. Maybe he just fought that. But I remember that was a big episode of SmackDown. Triple H versus Taz. Benoit versus Angle. Jericho versus Rock in a lumberjack match. Triple H versus Rock in 2000. Austin versus Benoit. Rock versus Triple H. Jeff Hardy versus Triple H. Taz versus Angle. Booker versus Rock. Austin versus Jericho. RVD versus Angle. Taz versus Maven 1. That's a big one. Taz versus Maven 2. I don't know why I'm writing those down. Jericho versus RVD. RVD Appreciation Night. RVD versus Angle. RVD versus Rock in a hardcore match. Booker T wins the Alliance Battle Royal. Hulk and Triple H win a Battle Royal. And then Hulk versus Triple H. Edge versus Benoit. Eddie versus Angle. Brock versus Mysterio. Random 03s. Vince versus Brock in a cage. Cena versus Undertaker. Cena versus Guerrero in a street fight. Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar, 60-minute Iron Man match. Angle versus Mysterio in a #1 contenders tournament. Cena versus Booker T. Batista something SmackDown. I don't know what that means. Edge Batista street fight. Eddie's last match. That'd be SmackDown of 2005. This would be the Rest in Peace Eddie Guerrero show. That would be the 2005 as well. SmackDown of 2006. Kurt Angle wins the WWE title. Undertaker versus Angle 2006. Benoit versus Helms. Angle versus Angle and Mysterio versus Orton and Henry. SmackDown 2006 Last Chance Battle Royal. Henry versus Angle. Booker versus Lashley in a cage. King Booker versus Batista. Then we have a Velocity and a Heat. I have no idea why I have that there, but it's in there. We have more Velocities. We have Benjamin versus Kerwin White. Best of Velocity. That just says Heat on it, so I don't know what that is. Some Madison Square Garden Classic. Snuka versus Pedro Morales. Hogan versus Morocco. Steamboat versus Valentine. Lots of stuff on that one. Flair versus Hogan. Mountie versus Brett. Madison Square Garden show. Hogan versus Savage. JYD versus Bundy. Boston Garden of 85. Hulk Hogan versus Kamala. These two are special because both of these shows have Ted DiBiase as the WWF champion after the screw job on Saturday night's main event. Or it would be the main event. I apologize, with Andre versus Hulk. Hunky Tonk Man versus The Warrior. Rude versus Roberts. WWF at the Sports Center Arena. Then they are here at Meadowlands. Duggan versus DiBiase. The Hurts versus the Rougeaus. Hogan versus Bad News. Rockers versus the Brainbusters. Hogan versus the Boss Man. Lots of stuff through here. We're running down on the 15-minute timeline. So, Iron Man, Flair versus Bret Hart, Old School, 24/7, 1993. Here's a Royal Rumble at a house show in January of 94. I believe this next one should be a Royal Rumble from Japan. I remember both of those. I think the Japan show doesn't have any commentary on it. I think it might even be a fan cam if I remember right. Here's another fan cam. Hogan's last match. This would be from August of 1993 on the European tour. I think it took place in Spain versus Yokozuna. Bret Hart versus Goldust on Madison Square Garden's Classic in 1997. A Raw fan cam from 2006. Madison Square Garden's Classics, episode 7, 8, 9, 10. And Apple iLife. I don't even know what edition that is, but I guess I just stuck that there to get out of the way. But this is how I used to collect old Raws before the WWE Network. As you can see, this is a lot easier to just turn on your Apple TV and watch these shows. But you used to have to go online and set up trades and buy them and all sorts of stuff. So the way you kids got it today, a whole lot easier. I'll be coming to you with some more DVD collections out of my old tape trader days. I don't even know what I'm going to do with these.